All right.
Recording in progress.
All right, good to go. Are we all set? Perfect. All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let us begin our Sunday morning Bible study before our worship service. We are in Ecclesiastes chapter 2. We've been looking at Ecclesiastes for several weeks. In our book, we're in question number 8. We looked at 4 sections already. One was a quick intro, looking at the word vanity, the basic view of the world, and how Solomon is comparing and contrasting that basic view, right? That's really the main thing that we have here. Solomon is in a little compare and contrast, and he is looking at the totality of his life, and he's giving some feedback and some instructions that are applicable to every demographic of humanity, right? There's every aspect of life socially here. We're not getting in too much into cultural or ethnicity or nationality or racial differences here in terms of application. Most of what he's applying is social, right? Like every demographic of social life for humanity, whether it's from entry level into the world as a baby, whether it's from exit from the world as an older person on their deathbed. We'll get to that in Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Then he looks at it from every social-economic level, right? Whether it's having a lot or not having a lot. So there's every aspect of social, like I said, not too much culturally, nationally, ethnically, not too much. Most of what Ecclesiastes is talking about is a social construct and then a spiritual construct, right? So that makes it easier for us to teach this and apply it modern time, because we can pick this book up and go to any social structure is the point, right? We can go to communism, democracy, we can go to monarchs, and we can still apply what this is talking about, because in every aspect of humanity, every country in this world, you have haves and have-nots. You have young people and older people, right? You have the entry to life and you have death in every country, right? So like basically what we're talking about is a more universal look at the application, because our lesson title pulls from Ecclesiastes chapter 12, right? Because our lesson title pulls from this 13 and 14 verse of chapter 12, depending on your translation, the whole duty of man being mankind, right? So we're looking at this as a whole. So we have to keep that in mind in what we're looking at. Okay, we looked at the pursuit of wisdom and knowledge and the results of that, looking through physical, right? Striving after as much physical knowledge that we can get in this physical world, education. We looked at the pursuit of pleasure and wealth, finances, leisure, and those sort of things. We looked at evaluation of wisdom and folly, right? Evaluating the application of wisdom just for wisdom's sake, and is there value in that? Today, we're going to look at human labor. So let's go to Ecclesiastes 2, 18 through 23. 18 through 23. Let's see, who wants to read that for us? 18 through 23, just a few verses there. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, just verses 18 through 23. We'll start there. Oh, thank you.
Is that 2 or 3?
2, Ecclesiastes 2.
Yea, I hated all my labor, which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me, And who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labor wherein I have labored, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labor which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is in wisdom and in knowledge and in equity. Yet poor man that hath, I'm so sorry,
That's okay.
my hand just slipped.
You were in 21.
Thanks. Yet to a man that hath not labored, therefore therein shall he leave it for his portion. This also is vanity and a great evil. For what hath man of all his labor and of the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath labored under the sun? For all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yet his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. There is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God. For who can eat, or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy. For to the sinner he giveth travail to gather and to keep up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit.
All right, great. Thank you. All right, there's two sections here because we're going to look at questions 8 and 9 together. There's an 18 through 23, a 24 through 26. If you can, keep in mind 24 through 26 when we're looking at these first several verses, right? We'll explain that why when we get to 9. But as we're talking, just keep 24 through 26 in your mind as he not keeps repeating, but he's emphasizing this balance between laboring in 18 through 23 and leisure in verse 24, right? So just keep that. Okay, the first couple of verses that we have here, he said he hated all his labor. This is a direct bridge from last week's verse 17. Therefore, I hated life because the work that was done under the sun was grievous to me, for all his vanity and grasping for the wind. Then I hated my labor, right? Because if he hated his life because of the work in verse 17, then he analyzed the work and said, now I start analyzing the work. Now I have to come to the realization that I hated my labor in which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. Right now we're talking, this is what I was saying about, doesn't matter what society we're looking at, right? Because you either have the government in which you're under seizing assets, or you have loved ones, or you have a will, right? And that's from every aspect of life, right? Depending on where you are in the world, one or all three of those things may be applicable to you when you go from this life to the next, because a good example in human history of not being able to take finances with you from this life to the next is the Egyptian culture, right? Because the pharaohs believed that afterlife was a physical construct. So those things that were physically in the tomb would accompany them to the afterlife. So the pharaohs instructed that all of their possessions be buried in the tomb, right? How did that work? Well, you know, a couple of nights went by, and what happened? People just went and robbed the tombs because they knew better, and that those things weren't possible. So that's a good example that many people, even in the world, use, right? Like there's a saying that people say, there's no Brinks truck following a hearse, right? Like I can't, you know, sometimes, and this is, you don't even have to be famous, but a lot of famous people do it, but sometimes loved ones do it. You'll have a procession to the cemetery, but at a specific route, right? Like a loved one would want to go by somewhere where they always traveled or something like that. There is no stop at the bank to take your money out the bank and put it with you wherever you're being buried, right? It's just not possible. So this is just a modern kind of way to look at that. So Solomon is saying the same thing, right? The problem is he hated his labor because everything that he toiled for under the sun, he realized that no matter how much success that he acquired in this physical life, he'd have to give it to the next person because he can't take it with him. 19, who knows whether he will be a wise man or a fool? Yet he will rule over all my labor in which I toiled and in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This also is vanity, right? So he's saying hey, it's not that I'm just upset I have to give these things to the next person, right? Don't even say generation, just next person. It's not that I'm just upset based off of that. My analysis is, how do I know that that person that's going to inherit those things that I work all my life for is going to be and then put in any adjective that means something to you in modern language, right? A good steward, some people say, a good manager of money, some people say, an asset. He's saying a wise person, or the flip side, a fool, right? Foolish, right? A bad steward, somebody who's gonna squander all of those things which are given to them. So that's what he's saying. Then for verse 20, therefore I turned my heart and despaired of all the labor in which I had toiled under the sun. Now he's retrospective. Now he's thinking back to say, let me think about this. In verse 17 and 18, I analyzed my life, and my life was burdened by work. And then I didn't appreciate my work because all the benefits from my work, right? The financial benefits from my work, I have to pass on to the next person when I die. And who knows if that person will be a good steward of the things that I passed them, or be wise to those things. Therefore, I turn to my heart, right? That's retrospective. Now I start thinking within myself and despaired of all the labor in which I had done under the sun. Now I'm looking back. Doesn't matter what job I had, good, bad, large or small, doesn't matter what time period of my life. Now he's thinking back on all the things that he's done in terms of physical labor, and seeing that he's questioning what value was it. Verse 21. There's a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he must leave his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. Now he's talking about it as something that we should be able to grasp more and more as we continue to read this. Again, this is not reserved for famous or rich people, right? Every single living being, when you pass, somebody will do something with your possessions. You could be homeless, right? You could just have one shopping cart to your name, and the day Ellis don't come back, somebody will say what? Well, let's leave that shopping cart for Ellis as a memorial. No, they could be like, I don't know where Ellis is. I'm taking that shopping cart. So like this part of the study, let's keep our minds to ourselves. Think about your loved ones that have passed on. Think about yourself right now, preparation, right? Because it's sad to say how expensive the death process is, right? Like it's very, very expensive. You already have the burden of grief, but society won't let you grieve, right? But just for a few moments, and then people are going to start calling for a financial sustenance to cover everything. So he's saying, just analyze that for a second while you're living, because obviously you can't analyze that when you pass. So he's on the living side. He's thinking to himself, let me think here. All the work that I do, when I pass on to the next life, those things that I have to stay here. The next person, family member, group of people, local government, national government, whoever takes those things in which I have, whether great or small, who's to say they're going to be of any good steward to those things? Who's to say they would appreciate them the same way I appreciate it? Have you ever bought something, it don't matter the price, that meant something to you? It's even better example if someone else will say, why did you buy that? It's even better of an example, because some things you want from a long time, and someone else may say, no, this chair is way better. You say, no, like that chair is nice, but in my mind, I always wanted this chair. Someone say, this costs more, this is worth more. That's why I said it's even better example if it's something that the society doesn't deem as the highest level, because that means it has sentimental value to you. This is hard to hear. When you pass on, almost all those things that had sentimental value to you, family members don't even care. You go to a funeral, I always notice this, right? So don't be offended by this, because this is just me, my own person. When you go to a funeral and you see people there, you see a wide range of emotions, don't you? Don't you see people laughing at a funeral? A lot of times, sometimes you see people talking business at a funeral, right? You're thinking, well, I mean, time and a place. I don't read too much of my Bible, but this is Ecclesiastes time. Why we got to talk about this now? Right? We in the grieving process. Then you see some individuals who are in full grief mode in the same funeral. So if that happens in a funeral, what do you think happened to a physical possession, a thing? And now you have one thing, and let's just say two people and one thing. The other person passed on. That person had a sentimental value. It was a chair that they wanted for whatever reason that meant something to them. When they were little, their mom or grandmother had a chair like that, right? It was something. You looking at that chair, one person may look at that chair as a what? Burden. Now I gotta move this chair. I gotta call a mover. I gotta rent a truck, get this over to the house. I don't want this chair. The other person may look at it. So let's just say it's two, right? One looking at it as value and one looking at it as this is useless. Look at that, fighting over that, right? That's something that someone else labored for. It meant something to them. That's why I said today's class, try to make it personal, because he's not talking about random things. We buy random things all the time because we live in this world. But there's some things that we own that mean something to us, where if everything in the house was robbed, you would be in tears because of that thing. And I said, it don't matter if it's the most expensive thing in your house. You might lose the most expensive thing and tell the police. That's not even my concern. This thing is gone. Think in your mind if you have something like that. That's what he's saying. That whatever thing that represents that emotional connection to you, imagine giving that to someone else either willfully with the living will, or you pass and now people have to fight over that thing. His point is, will people have the same appreciation emotionally to whatever that thing is? You put in your mind whatever fits for you for this lesson. Will they have the same emotional attachment? He's saying no. So he's thinking to himself, if that's the case, what is the point of all the hard work I did to get that thing? Right? And that's where he wants us as the reader to analyze for ourselves. Ecclesiastes is from a perspective, yes, but it is a perspective that should be therapeutic for us. We shouldn't read Ecclesiastes like a novel and say, wow, that guy lived an interesting life. We should read it as a tutorial to look at and say, oh, like school, when you have math, they give examples, right? Ellis had 2 apples, right? Erica took 1 apple. How many apples left does Ellis have? Well, they're not teaching you about fruit, right? They teach you about math. He's just using his life as an example. He's not teaching you about Solomon. He's teaching you about mankind. See what I'm saying? That's why we can't only think about rich people when we read Ecclesiastes and say, of course, it's easy for him. You got a lot of money. You could try everything. Of course, you say nothing matters. No. He's saying, even in your life, or the things that you do every day, what long-term value do they have? What short-term value does he have? Doesn't matter. That's why I say you could be homeless. He'll still say the same thing to a homeless person. Hey, whatever means something to you that you have wrapped up in your pocket because you don't live in a specific place, what happens when you go and they check your body, right? They're not just going to dump your body somewhere. They're going to empty your pockets, whatever that thing is. And somebody say like, oh, look, what is this? It's just a pen. Who cares? Throw it away. You have TV shows about that. Storage Wars, Pawn Stars. They go and say, look, this have any value? And then what somebody say sometimes? This thing worth $1 million. This was, and you say, this thing my grandmother had. I just found this. This was just laying around. Don't that happen? And people say, look, this is worth money. You think, wow, I wonder if my grandmother knew that was worth money. This just was sitting somewhere. That happens all the time. Somebody open up a storage unit. Is anything in there? Yeah, look at this coin here. This thing worth $1 million. This little dingy coin. Yeah, this thing from 1800 some, because value, somebody gonna see that thing and say, you didn't realize this had value. But do that mostly happen with strangers to assets or family members? Strangers. Family members don't be seeing value when they rummaging through the house. Family members be looking for what? Money. I'm look, where's the money? Oh, here, grandma left you. I don't want this. Where's the money at? You just throwing something at. Maybe that was the money. Maybe that was something of value. That's what he's saying. He's saying in the life that we live, every person around the whole earth, every time period, what value is it for the things you acquire when you compare it to whoever takes control over it? And that's what he's talking about. Sister Karen?
Yes, so I have two examples.
Sure.
When we were talking. So one of my favorite phrases is live, laugh, love, which means live the max. So live your life to the max, laugh as much as you can, and just love everyone around you because life is so short. So my first example is when I moved. So I had to downsize. All of a sudden, all these things that I worked very hard for, that I cherish, but I say cherish, that I love so much, I had to get rid of them because I had no space. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it's like the perspective just changes, because what am I going to do? Pay for storage unit for things that I'm never going to use?
Or see.
And then some of it, I had it for 6 years, never touched it. And I'm looking at it like, are you kidding me? Like, really? Like, these things are here and I never ever use them. And just to put things in perspective, remember Sister Celeste? Remember when I moved to Bridgeport? Sister Celeste was one of the first people who came and did my kitchen for me. The things that she put up, I never touched them. And that was how much years ago? 6 years ago. So I'm it's just funny how things and the things that means. I can tell every story about every single item, where I got it, who gave it to me, how precious it is. And it's like, it doesn't mean anything anymore because I'm not going to pay for storage. So the other example is 20 years old, my mother died. And I had never seen this before. People came into the house, her family, my father's family, and she had drawers of stuff that she never used, because I don't know how your family is, but and I don't know how the culture is in America, but they had drawers of things for strangers. Just in case you have a guest, you're gonna give them a new pajama, new sheets,
toothbrush,
you know what I mean? Everything brand new. You cannot give them something that you used before, right? And she always had glasses that you're not supposed to use. It's for your guests, plates, forks, all that stuff. And I watched my family walk into that house. My father still lived there. They didn't care. They emptied out every single thing,
like a home invasion.
Drawers, her wardrobe, her cabinet, her everything that she had stored. And I was like, oh my God, like we weren't allowed to touch these stuff. These are like sacred stuff. And they just emptied out everything, all her clothes. I mean, my father turned around and said, I live here still. They left him with one set of everything. One set. Now there's a long story to that, because he didn't deserve anything because of the things that he did. But I remember I was there thinking, she worked all her life. She got sick. She raised her kids. She raised her husband. She put up with, you know what I mean? She put up with so much, and she put aside so many things that she could not use. And because of that, at 20 years old, I remember I said, I will never save anything. So whatever I have, I'm using it. I'm not saving nothing for no guests. I'm not saving nothing for no special occasions. You know, because every day is a special occasion, right?
You wake
and
up.
I remember you die or you move or something, or what happens, it's all gone. My kids today in the current, they can tell you exactly what in my house they're taking if I die today. They know exactly what they want. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are all these things? So this verse that talks about what is labor? Eat, drink, be merry, live your life. Live your life. Because all the stuff you work hard for, it's okay. You deserve it. You deserve the nice car. You deserve the nice house. You deserve the nice towels. You deserve the nice sheets. You deserve all the kind of things in life. So the point is, enjoy it. Because when you die, it's gone.
Yeah, look, I mean, literally what her point is, look at verse 22. For what has man for all his labor? Look at the two examples she gave. And for the striving of his heart, which he has been toiling under the sun, for all the days, her examples are sorrowful, and his work grievous. Hard work, she mentioned. Even in the night, his heart takes no rest, right? Sometimes I got to work overtime to get that. This is also vanity. And to the verse that she was alluding to, there is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. We'll talk about that in a second, because there's a difference between body, spirit, and soul. This also I saw was from the hand of God, right? Notice he didn't say this also I saw was vanity. Now we have a switch of perspective that Sister Karen was talking about. For God gives wisdom and knowledge and what? Joy to a man with who? Which man? who is good in his sight. But to the sinner, he gives what? The work or trouble of gathering, and New King James Version says one word that she mentioned, collecting, that he may give to, her example again, him who is good before God. This is also vanity and grasping for the wind, right? She just mentioned a tail piece. There's a piece of the story where the family member didn't deserve it. Just that tail piece there speaks to some of verse 26, right? Give it to the person who's good before God. Sometimes that's the case. Jesus said that. Sometimes somebody will be bad and somebody will be good. And what will God say? Don't worry about it. I'm going to take this from you and give it to you. Doesn't Jesus say that? That's what this is talking about. So again, this touches every example, right? Family member who was good, family member who was bad, family member who received the items well, family members who took the items, right? Strangers who received the items well, strangers who took the items and didn't care for them. It don't matter. It's just talking about the transition from this life to the next. Okay, a couple of key verses to touch on that we just reread, but points for Sister Karen's point, right? There's nothing better for a man than he should eat, drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. Now he's making a transition, right? He's talking about the difference between a physical mindset and a spiritual mindset, right? And that's something that we want to spend the second half of class talking about. You can only pick one mindset. I can't have today, the 26th, a physical and spiritual mindset, because a mindset is a focus. I can only focus on one thing at a time, right? When you drive in the 50 states of America, they do not want you to multitask. They don't want you on your phone, on the computer, searching for a song, right? Isn't that the law? You're supposed to be focused on driving. We say, I can multitask. I can look at ahead, the car in front of me, the cars on the side of me, and my phone at the same time. Is that possible? Because you have two eyes. And the way your eyes work, when you go to the eye doctor, they prove that both eyes work to focus on one thing. And if you look past that one thing, you notice you see how many things? Oh, y'all look like two things. Because once I look at you all and not this pen, I see two pens. But once I focus on this, you all become blurry. So you just pick whichever one is the physical or the spiritual. See my point? I can only focus on one thing. Either I'm going to focus on you all or this pen. Which one is the spiritual thing? If I focus on you all, I see two pens. If I focus on the pen, the rest of you are blurry. See, I can only have one focus. Most of the traffic accidents happen in bumper jams, small distance. Because like when you see the car far away and you look down at your phone, mentally you're thinking, even if the car slammed on brakes, I'm so far away, right? I can react. It's traffic jams where a lot of accidents happen because the car is this close. So when I look away and I hit the gas and I hit the car because it's just inches away, that happens spiritually and physically with focus, right? I have to pick to myself. Sometimes I crash in life because I switched my focus from the pen to the audience for a second. Only 1 second I switched my focus and then I crashed. That's why he's saying there is a type of wisdom, there's a type of knowledge, there's a type of eating, there's a type of drinking. Sister Karen mentioned happiness, he mentioned joy. There's a type of those that do come from God. See, he's I want to say the first time in the first 2 chapters, he's making a stark distinction verbatim and not alluding to it. He's saying that type, which we'll get to in verse 26, who is the person that receives this in a second, that type of joy, eating, drinking, or happiness, wisdom, and knowledge, that comes from the last part of 24, the hand of God. And how do we know that? Well, James says that some good things, no, all good things come from God. Right? So we know that all good things, no matter if you're a saint or a sinner, comes from God. Okay, so he established that. 25, For who can eat or who can have enjoyment more than I? Now he's inserting himself to say, if you disagree with this, you never will be at the level of me when it comes to eating and drinking. So if I'm telling you, I've ate everything, I've drank everything, right? And the eating and drinking are just quotations. When it comes to enjoyment, he's saying, I've enjoyed everything. So I'm trying to tell you, this is much like an older person or a parent giving instruction. I have lived this life, whatever this life is. As someone who went through this experience, I'm suggesting you live different. Every generation has that. How many generations listen to that? 0. Right? Somebody who said, listen, I just came from outside, it's raining, you need an umbrella. You look out this window, you say, what? It's not raining. Anybody been down south where that happened? Where it be raining in the backyard, but sunny? So you saying, nobody said I came from this door. Can we see the back from this part of the building? No, I'm telling you it's raining back there. Now, some people my coat could be wet. Some people gonna say, what? Maybe he slipped in the water cooler wet him. He's saying, I'm trying to tell you it's rain. Some people are gonna look out the window and say, it's not raining. That is how this works, right? An older person can have the scars of life on them. And you look and you be like, oh, maybe they slipped and fell. I don't know. That's not gonna happen to me. So all the wisdom that older generation tried to pass on, what does the generation that is able to apply that and benefit from it, what do? Where is the success rate of that? Shouldn't we see success? Shouldn't we see like, oh, wow, look, this culture, this generation went through something. Boom, look at that. Wow. You should see that locally, right? In a family, in a last name. You should see that in a church. You should see that nationally. You should see that globally, right? The housing crisis is a great example of that in this country. 2008, you had a housing crisis that was based off of specific type of loan that was being given out. Do you realize they give those same loans out? Do that make any sense? The same exact type of loan, they still giving those loans. I thought that wasn't a good idea. Good people want a house. What you gonna do? You gotta make the people happy. That's just one example. Think of your own family, something that you know a mother, a father, a grandmother, a grandfather told you or another loved one verbatim a do not ever, 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 ever do this. Think of your family and think of yourself or another family member who did exactly that. What was the outcome? Did they say, oh, look, mom, dad, granddad, grandma was wrong. Look, I did that thing and got success. No. You know, one of the things you discount in a family that is detrimental to you is DNA. So if somebody is an alcoholic in your family, not someone else's family, you have shared DNA with that person. Don't think about that, right? So when an older person, don't think about this, sometimes when your mom, your dad, your grandparents telling you not to do something, is because they did it and they know the effects and you are them. See, but you don't think, oh, good, if Ellis did that, maybe I will respond negatively physically to that same whatever thing is. He's right, I shouldn't do that. We look at it and say, what? Man, that was Ellis. I'm gonna be different. How you different DNA-wise? Can somebody explain that to me? So even that we don't analyze, right? Sometimes a loved one don't have to be a doctor for them to explain that to you. Sometimes yes is yes and no is no. That loved one is trying to save you from the heartache and pain that they went through. We look at it as that loved one trying to keep us from having fun. Oh, so go have all the fun you want to have. So this is something that we can apply to our families, right? When we're looking for common ground to interact with family members on spiritual things, this is a great topic. Have a family study. You can weave this in biblically, but just have a family study, especially the older you are, the more likely, right? When you older, your loved ones claim they love you so much. Okay, let me show you how much you can love them. Let's come over and have a family talk. And I'm gonna count how many family members and I'm gonna see how many love me who show up somewhere. The older you are, you can apply this. Then you sit them down and you start talking about 18 through 26, but talk about it from the world first. Ask them, hey, what's your plan? Like Sister Karen said, start naming things. Hey, see this plate, this silver plate over here? Who think they getting that? She said, some people are gonna say, oh, raise hand. Then I'm gonna look around and say, I know nobody else got their hand up. Have those family conversations while you live it. And see, as they start talking about, then ask them about their life. What about your car? What about your dog? What about your cat? What about your favorite hat, your shoes? Ask them. Then as they start, you'll start to notice each person not responding the same way. That's your chance. You say, hey, okay, just one second. We all family, right? They'll say, yeah. We all have different perspectives. Some people mention sentimental things. Some people mention financial things. Let me ask you a question. In that scenario, all of you were in what group? The person that passed away or the person living? Your family gonna say, well, we're thinking from the vantage point of living. You asked us, what would we do? Okay, now I'm asking you to put yourself in the vantage point of the person who passed. Now we can make the bridge to spiritual things to your family. See, they already over the house. Once you were the one who passed, do you think you would care about the fight? See, ask them that. Then they got to think to themselves, Then you say, look, I'm going to go first. I'm not going to care about y'all fighting over that stuff. Because you know where I'm going to be at? I'm going to be in Abraham's bosom. See, now you making a spiritual connection. Then you ask them, where will you be at? Because before you answer, there's two places you can be. If you in Abraham's bosom, now you got them because they already at the house. You don't even have to remember where this is. Just tell them, Abraham's bosom, there's a story in the Bible, Lazarus. Lazarus never opened his mouth once. So that means he was enjoying himself. The other person was not in Abraham's bosom, and he was concerned with who? His family, his brothers. See, you don't have to remember the Bible to have this study. And you tell them he was so stressed with what his brothers were doing, he begged that someone go from that other life back to this life. Tell them that. So which one will you be, you think? Now they got to think to themselves. Oh, I'm going to be in Abraham's bosom. Oh, really? This is great. Now we got even more discussion. How you know that? Right? If somebody says, hey, I'm going to eat at so-and-so restaurant at 3 o'clock, and you say, how you know that? What am I going to say? Well, I made reservations. What you mean? Did you make any reservations for Abraham's bosom? In my heart? Ooh, in your heart. Anybody could pay bills in their heart? I wish. See, sometimes we go towards Bible study, I think, in an ineffective approach. Use this because people don't talk about death and its preparation enough. And I'm telling you, the older you are in your family, the more power this is because people will listen. If you just 18 and you said, hey, let's have a family meeting, what people gonna tell you? Sweetheart, we busy. Ain't nobody having no family meeting. But if you a mother, a father, a grandmother, a grandfather, or aunt, uncle, and hey, can you come over? You're going to get some family members come over, right? Because they're going to think something is wrong. And you just ask them, we're not offending anybody, just basic question. What are you going to do with those possessions? Just like Sister Karen said, you answer for yourself. What are you going to do? Here, I'm going to give you this plate today. And then what you going to do with it? You're going to hang it up like me or you're going to use it? Well, I'm going to use it. Okay, you're going to use it in what way? Oh, this way, that way. And what about tomorrow? And the next day? And the next day? See, you have to keep pressing them so that their focus, remember the pen example, their focus goes to something other than their understanding. And that's when you have how someone responds spiritually is on them. That's between them and God. All we're trying to do is to change people's focus. That's how we should have Bible study. Sometimes it's not so much in the thou shalt not. This is just a general conversation about families. Every family can leave here today and have this type of Bible study, I'm saying, because I told you, it's not going to start off as a Bible study. You're just going to ask them, what are we going to do with the things when anyone passed? I'll go first. Use me as an example passing. They're going to say, what? Oh, God forbid, don't say that. No, just okay. Let's say God do bid, and let's just use me. I don't want to offend the rest of you, so I'm gonna use me as an example. Tell them that. And just like Sister Karen said, it'd be good if you were in the house, even if you were on Zoom, just show them, hey, this plant here, who want this plant? Nobody? I'm going to throw it out. No, don't throw it. You love it. No, I'm going to hang up this plant going in the trash. Do it like an auction. And who want this fork? Nobody? Ooh, I'm going to throw this fork away. No, I want this fork. Great. See, you just need someone to be the first family member to speak. Then ask them, what you going to do with that love thing? Oh, I'm going to this, I'm cheers, I'm going to remember you by. Even if they answer good, see my point? They may say, listen, I'm going to cherish it the same way you cherish. You're not done with that family member. Great. Let's say you pass and someone else, will the third person cherish? How many people you think going to keep cherishing? See what I'm saying? It's only to get their focus. We haven't said nothing about book, chapter, and verse yet. Just ask them. And then I said, make a transition. Hey, let me ask you something. Now you're thinking about yourself from the receiver. What about yourself as the giver? If you were the giver and you passed, do you think you would be concerned with anyone using that plate for the same value you had or even fighting over it? Would you be concerned? If they say they would be concerned, you can use the parable of Abraham, Lazarus, and the rich man. If they say they won't be concerned, you can use the same parable and now use the restaurant analogy and how you figure you won't be concerned, because they're going to tell you, I'm going to be in a better place. Then you just have to ask one question. How do you know that? Isn't that a fair question? Hey, I'm going to home after church. How you know that? How I know what? I'm going home? Yeah, how you know when you get to the door, that's your house? Is this a trick question? I pay rent or mortgage there, I got a key. And how you know the key's still going to work? Well, unless somebody changed the lock while I was at church, I don't. So you have something to let you into that door. Jesus said, I'm the door. How you going to get by him? Oh, he going to let me in. Well, Jesus said he knows some people and he don't know some people, just like your own house. We haven't quoted a book, chapter, verse yet, right? This is just quick Bible study. Hey, at your house, don't you decide who walked through the front door? They'll say, yeah, you're right. I have a camera. I don't even have to go to the door anymore. Okay, so you decide who walked through. So when Jesus said he's the door, how you figure you getting past Jesus? Do you know him? Does he know you? Y'all recognize each other on the street? Then people will start saying, well, you know what? I pray and I do and those are good things. That's fantastic. Let's analyze those the same way as a key to the door. You have a pocket full of keys. And it's a lot of doors out here, but those keys work at a specific door. So do you know the entryway to where I'm talking about? And when you have those Bible studies, you should leave them with those questions. See, I feel like we think sometimes we got to keep, now I got to think book. I don't have to book, chapter, and verse. Everything I just said, that's up for you to think about. I already was thinking about that. That's a focus, a mindset. Once I get you to focus on, wait a minute, there's more to life than what we're doing. Now I can say, well, y'all go home now. Hey, no, grandma, we're going to say, no, I got other things to do. Y'all go on home, chew on this, food for thought. Y'all go do the dishes now. I'm going to watch TV. You act with your family like that, you will start getting some spiritual respect, because some of our family members don't respect our spiritual faith. And see, that is where I got to start drawing the line in my own family, in my own phone. If you don't respect my spiritual faith, I want you to take 10 steps back. And if and when I get to you, I'll get to you. That's me going into 2022. That's anybody. They could have the same last name as me. They could be related to me. They could be a friend for 30 years. Because what I'm noticing is family and friends be the one that disrespect your faith the most, not strangers, right? Strangers don't know my faith. So if I'm in a restaurant praying, ain't nobody gonna say nothing to me, because they may say, this dude crazy. He may beat me up. He may pray and then I laugh and he beat me up. It don't be strangers that have something to say with me going to church, right? When I have to tell somebody in work what I was doing Sunday or Wednesday, you know what they say every single time? Oh, what they gonna say? Because they know what? If I say something that offends Ellis, HR will fire me, because we live in America. It don't be co-workers that have something to say about what I'm doing spiritually. You know who always have something to say. People that's in my phone. Family members and friends always have something to say about what I'm doing spiritually, not what they're doing. Why are they minding my spiritual business? You notice that? Hey, why are you always going to church? What kind of question is that? What does that have to do with you? That's like me saying, why you always drink coffee or tea, or why you always watch this TV program? Because I want to. What if it's just because I want to? What if I like going to church? Is that an answer, or that's not a good enough answer? Then they start saying you wasting your time. Then they want to question the things you believe in. That's why I said, you just tell them, let's talk about what you believe in. Like Sister Karen said, the things you like, whatever those things are, let's divide them up on a family Zoom call. And some people, be honest. And if you're not getting the engagement you want, you jumpstart. Hey, let me be honest with you. That thing you like, I'm going to use that. The second you pass, I'm going to use that and I'm going to put it in the dishwasher. Someone say, no, that was passed down from generations. It came from the old country. You tell them, look, I don't care if it came from the new country, the old country. I've been wanting to eat on that plate since I was a child, because you know what you're showing them? This verse is right here, that you don't hold the same value to those things. And you will start to notice in your own family, some of them will get upset over things. Some of them, if you don't believe me, do this exercise. Some of your family member will get upset over things, and you say, why are we about to start fighting over things? And when I be talking about spiritual things, I can't get no family support. We over here fighting over plates and dishes in a hypothetical situation. You know why? Because Sister Karen is saying, look, because when they pass, they're going to really start fighting over. That's the sad thing. She's not the only one. Other people can testify to that, say, yeah, I was in a family situation where I seen people physically fighting over things. What about grieving? Yeah, I grieve later. So this is what we need to look at when we start talking about the whole dude, right? Are we living towards the same standard? That's where we need to ask ourselves as we leave, right? You can do this again. This exercise we talked about can be with your own family or church family, either way. Are we all living to the same standard, right? A standard is a standard. What are we doing to get to that standard? Pursuit of happiness. Me and Sister Karen have been talking about this all class. Whether you are wealthy, poor, getting by, the pursuit of worldly happiness is still vanity. The pursuit, the focus. When I focus on the pen, all of you are blurred. When I focus on you, I see two pens. It doesn't mean I can't interact with you in the pen. See what I'm saying? It just means I can't focus on both of you. It doesn't mean I cannot go out, go to school, go to the gym, pay taxes, have nice things, don't have nice things, eat good, don't eat good. It doesn't mean I can't do those things, because those are worldly things. It means we are not focusing on them. That's the only difference we have to get our friends and family to see. We are you and you are us. We share the same DNA. The only difference is I'm not focused on those things. I still interact with those things. I'm not telling you those things are bad. I'm just telling you that my focus is different. Vanity mentioned in the book isn't limited only to wealthy pursuits. We talked about that, especially for today's class. Worldly relationships are vanity compared to spiritual focus. Worldly job focus is vanity compared to spiritual focus. Worldly pleasure is vanity compared to spiritual focus, right? Working out only profits a little, the Bible says, right? Didn't say it didn't profit at all. It's saying focus. Any worldly thought, mindset, action, or deed is vanity. That's what we're just trying to get our family members to see. Yes, we're not telling you do not have a relationship. Never said that. I'm telling you, if your focus is on a person instead of the person, which is Christ, that focus, that good thing, that relationship is a good thing. That good thing becomes detrimental and it becomes a bad thing. Because why? Just your focus. That's all you trying to get family members to see. The Bible isn't offering suggestions. These teachings aren't just nice to have. The Bible is a guide. The Bible is a requirement. We talked about that with getting into a physical door. The Bible is above how you feel, how you were raised, or how you think. You know, a good example to use that with the door, if you want to use that with your family, is a hotel. Because when you go to a hotel and you pay and it's in the time frame for the night you pay, don't you have a room key? What happens the minute, I'm talking about the second after your time is up, you could have kept the key. And if you go back to the door and you hit the thing, do the door open? Hey, this is my key. You saw this. This do look like the key. And this the door, isn't it? This do look like the door. But the problem is you don't have access to this room anymore. Some people don't have access to God anymore. They say, I got a key, look. And God's saying, when you put the key to the door, what happens? It turned red. Ooh, I was looking for green. See, green is where we at. What do red mean? Ooh, red mean you can't get in. See, there's so many worldly physical examples we can use to just help our family members. Hey, isn't it true that in a hotel, you don't have unlimited access to the room that you, of course not. How do you imagine you have unlimited access to spiritual things without doing something about it? We're all instructed to have a spiritual focus. And again, we'll get to this weeks later in Ecclesiastes 12. No Christian should be arguing about this. Spiritual focus is the standard, right? No family, no two church members, no last name versus last name should be arguing about what each person in here's focus should be. Now, that's in your Bible. I want to end on that because I hear too much of Christians telling me about what they think and how they feel. Don't be offended by this, but we don't care what you think or how you feel. Sometimes how I feel may be contrary to the Bible. You are going to cater to my feelings or the Bible. You got to say, Ellis, we love you, but child, we don't care how you feel. We about to have church. I say, I don't want to have church right now. Let's go to a buffet and come to church later. I'm hungry. You may say, Ellis, we love you. But if you passed out from food deprivation, we still going to do Lord's Supper. And we call it ambulance, but we about to have church. No, y'all going to love me enough to not have church in a few seconds because of my feelings? You'll be arguing with family members about feelings detrimental to your spiritual well-being. Tell those people I'll call you back. I'm busy. I'm not finna be arguing with you over spiritual things. See what I'm saying? People want to rob us, but they don't want us to be able to tell them about a spiritual focus. But you want to rob me of my Sunday morning happiness. Tell those people, even if you got to leave them at your house, I'll be back. And if I come back like Terminator and you're not here, I'll assume that you just didn't want to be a part of this anymore. But I'm going to church. Now, you got two options. You either come with me to church or you could stay here. The third option is not texting and calling me the whole time I'm at church or talking about what's for dinner or can you stop at the store? I can't stop at the store. If you would have came with me to church, we could have stopped at the store. I don't know what I'm going to do after church. My mind may be in such a spiritual high. I may fast. Tell your family that. I may not eat, so no need of calling me about what's for dinner on Sunday. I might be in such a spiritual high. I say, child, I'm a fast. I know nobody in the house want to hear that. There's so many ways that we can be equipped to interact with family members. You don't have to argue with them. Just tell them my focus is different. You trying to be on the focus that I'm on? My mind is going to be up here. That other stuff that we was talking about Saturday, I tell you all the time, tell them that was Saturday, Ellis. I'm a new creature. I don't even recognize Saturday, Ellis. When I walk by the mirror, I'm new every morning. I didn't even recognize my own reflection. You add that humor to people. Don't be telling me, I don't care what I did last night. That was an old me. I had Lord's Supper. Tell them that today. I had Lord's Supper and I left that old me crucified. You got to go to 15 Dewey Street to see whatever I was doing last night is at 15 Dewey Street. It's in the carpet. I'm a new person now because these individuals, your loved ones, not strangers, want to rob you of your joy because of what they believe and what they're focused on. Church, no family, no household or person in Christ should be living towards any other standard that is scripture. Cannot parent the way you want to parent. Got to leave church if you believe that. Can't have marriage the way you want to have a marriage. Got to leave church if you believe that. Can't be single the way you want to be single. You have to leave church to believe that. Just like if I'm a doctor, can I operate the way I want to operate and still keep a license? Am I speaking something that's foreign? No, they're going to say, wait, what you doing? Oh, I was trying a new technique. Oh, we're not doing no new techniques. No, I was thinking if we operate this, what they'll say, somebody will physically remove me. I could be a decorated doctor. You can't just start freestyling in here. Seriously, like that's the truth. Hey, I'm gonna do a new thing. Last night I was dreaming. Why we don't operate our hearts this way? The whole operating room will tackle you. So we got to think about that spiritually. There is no new thing. You know, hey, I was on YouTube and it said, oh, we should live this way. Well, God bless YouTube. We on YouTube too, telling you you shouldn't live that new way. Because Paul said, even if an angel bursts through, you can't believe it. So we have to make sure church are focused. We going into Q4 this year. What is every chair in here's focus? Now, if your focus is on something else, then it's right that me and you argue. Because, right, if we're not focusing on the same thing, are we going to argue? I told you, when I see you and don't focus on the pen, I see two pens. If you're focusing on the pen, we're going to argue about how many pens are there, correct? So there's no confusion why me and some people don't get along, because my focus is not their focus. They want to make it seem like I'm always arguing. No, I'm just trying to tell you there's only one pen. You're trying to grasp at two pens. So these are the things that we have to deal with again in our physical family. Please use this as a tool to empower yourself in your own physical family. Have these physical conversations with your family and try to bring it over to spiritual, like verses 24 through 26. These conversations we need to have with our spiritual family as a local congregation. Hey, what's our focus, right? What's the goal? Even businesses have these conversations, right? Hey, what's our goal? What are we doing? And try to use this as a tool, right? Use this. He's only using his life as an example. He's just saying, I did these things. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So the goal would be for questions 8 and 9, and really 1 through 9, to be honest with you, is to have that. Now, next week, we're going to get into questions 10. We're going to start chapter 3. Again, I implore you, it's only a tool for you for value if you want to use it personally, individually, definitely if you can do it with your physical family. And then spiritually, for sure, as a congregation, I feel like we should do this more, having these sort of discussions. Nothing wrong with people call you all the time to tell you about what they've seen on the internet, right? Call them and say, you want it. This what we talked about today didn't even, this part of the class took 32 minutes. This part, you just a Zoom meeting. You can say, I'm gonna set up a family Zoom meeting on a free account. We won't even burn through the 40 minutes before we gotta pay. I just got a couple quick things to ask you. What y'all gonna fight over when I pass? And that's all you need sometimes to try to get their focus. Yesterday, we were at the funeral for Sister Ann's husband. And her point was just sprinkle a little bit of things in there that my family's focus would be on different things. Just ask her afterwards. That's all you want as a loved one, right? Because as a loved one, you already know where the person going, where you going. You just having those things for family members. Am I correct? So that they can just hear a couple scriptures to say, hey, remember, I'm always watching church, going to church. Hey, where you going when you leave this life? That's all your focus is sometimes as a loved one. Implore them to have that, to show them that there's a different and a better way to live. That's all we're trying to do with people, right? And if you try that, use it as examples. If people do use these things, share it amongst yourself, right? Let's see where we can get tools to interact with our families different. Doesn't matter. We're not saying we're doing it a bad way. You might have been having a Bible study with a specific family member for a long time. These are some tools that we can try and talk about one to another to say, hey, I tried this and this worked. It worked when we went somewhere. It worked when they came over. It worked when we cooked. It worked when we went to a restaurant. Sometimes family discussions are better in a public space than at home. So these are things that we can do. We can try to use as a congregation and get some benefit from. All right. Thank you for everyone's time, your attention, and your attendance. If you're online with us, we're going to disconnect now from YouTube, and we're going to start our worship service in just a few moments. So we encourage you to rejoin us on YouTube. If you're here with us physically, Please take a couple of moments, relieve yourself if you need to. You can get up, speak to one another, use the bathroom, and then we will start our worship service in just a few moments. Thank you so much for everyone's attention and attendance.